Hi there, I'm Black Bright, broadcasting out of the UK, and I'm talking about relationships again today and kind of a self help, or maybe it's more to do with trying to get an understanding about why things happen and when you're entering a relationship with somebody, what that actually means. So, I'm Black Bright, born in the UK of Jamaican parents, raised in London, moved to east of England say about 20 years ago now. And yeah, I've lived 11 years in the United States, 1 year in Africa. So I feel pretty rounded. I've had quite a lot of life experiences. So when I talk about a lot of subject, it is because I've got an amalgam of experience underneath my belt. So today, and sometimes when something happens and I think, oh, it's made me feel a bit uncomfortable, I tend to share that with others because the way I feel about certain subjects is the way other people feel about it. And sometimes I talk to my colleagues or my friends and they have similar reservations or thoughts and feelings. So I kind of put them all into one big pot. I get all the ingredients, all the different experiences, and I put them in one big pot to see what I can come out with. So what you've got now is the outcome. You've got the cake. All the ingredients have been put in, so now you have the final product, which is what I'm going to share with you. And hopefully, by the end of this video, you have some idea about why you have those little nigglings when your partner talks about his ex. Okay, so when your ex reminds you of failure, I called it that because a lot of people, when they break up with someone, they see it as failure regardless of whether they were incompatible, regardless of the circumstances, they see it as failure. It's something that hasn't worked out, and they see it as a reflection on themselves. And their goal thereafter is to make a success, whether that is by flaunting themselves in front of their exes, whether it's to prove that they still have a relationship with their exes, whether it's to just keeping their ex alive. You know, when you break up with somebody, it's like perpetual grief. And sometimes it could be because the person cheated on you. But even if the person cheated on you, you kind of have that feeling like, what did I do wrong? How did I fail? How did I fail her? What made that person go with someone else? So you have that constant feeling. And even if somebody ends a relationship because of something else, you just have an argument, you find that you're incompatible. You're left with that feeling, what if? And is it really over? Is there any chance that we can get back together again? And you have that sense of grief. It's almost like death. You have that sense of grief and loss as though you can't actually believe it's happened. And so you start looking at yourself. What could I have done differently? How could I have made things better? Is there anything I could have done? So you constantly go through that self-chastisement. So I don't really want to go off because when I go off, I find that that's what makes my videos too long. So let's see if I can stick to what I've actually written down, my notes. So is anyone truly single? That's the first thing. Is anybody truly single? We've either got into a relationship, we're either got out of a relationship, or we're getting over a relationship. So when you think about those three things, a relationship is somehow hovering over us, like a bad smell. If you've just got into a relationship, sometimes you're still thinking about the person you just got out of a relationship with. If you've just left the relationship, you're worrying about whether or not you're going to make the same mistake in the new relationship and why that relationship broke up. And when you're getting over a relationship, it's just endless. For men in particular, it takes them so long to get over a relationship that sometimes they go with other people on the rebound. They use another woman to replace the one that they've lost, to stop feeling lonely, to stop feeling rejected, to stop feeling abandoned, to prove that they can actually get another woman. Sometimes it's as simple as that. You're there just to fill in the gap, and while they're getting over their relationship. And sometimes when men keep talking about their exes, it's because they haven't got over them. There was no closure. They didn't actually sit down and talk it out and say, look, this is why this relationship isn't ending. Sometimes, even if it's because they cheated, one person storms out, they never actually find out why each other cheated. I mean, of course, you're going to be emotional, you're going to be angry, you're going to be frustrated, and you probably feel like killing each other. But the fact of the matter, it leaves an open wound, and that open wound doesn't get healed. So every time you go into a new relationship, you carry that with you. You carry that open wound with you. And it'll take a special person to heal that wound and make you feel whole again. But you have to try and work on yourself. And I'm relating this to females with male exes more than the other way around, because that's the only perspective I really kind of know and understand. But I do know that men are more emotionally attached and affected by relationship breakups than women are. Women seem to be able to just stay single, get on with their lives, they think about getting someone new, where with men it's totally different. They feel like failures, they feel embarrassed, they not sure what to do, they feel guilty if they were caught cheating. They carry a lot of weight when a relationship doesn't work out for them. And that is why it comes into new relationships. That is why they talk about their exes. And you find a lot of men talk about their exes, and they talk about them so fondly. It's almost like they're trying to validate themselves through their exes. And have you noticed about some of these men, they have to tell you what their exes did? I mean, I'm sure if she was a road sweeper, they wouldn't be telling you what she did. But you find that they have to tell you the profession of their ex. They have to tell you what she looked like, how she dresses, whatever it is. And it's not necessary. And it's because they, I think on the one part, and I'm talking as a female, trying to think about why a man would do that. I think it's because somehow they feel accomplished. They're living vicariously through their ex. They feel as though their ex, the fact that they were able to get a woman of a certain caliber, somehow makes them feel worthy of you. And therefore, they need to tell you that the person that they had was a scientist, a pilot, whatever she was. And so it kind of makes the person that they're with now feel, oh, if he can get her, I'm quite lucky to have him. So I think there's a bit of control going on there. But I'm not sure. Men who are watching this video, let me know why you keep bringing up your exes, why you talk about them so lovingly and all that kind of rubbish. Because really, it's not necessary. It really isn't necessary unless you're not over them, or unless you're testing to see whether you're matching yourself up with a bunny boiler, and you're testing to see whether or not that person is jealous or over possessive. Otherwise, I don't really see why men need to talk about their exes. So sometimes most people, they come with baggage, whether it's divorce. Whose decision was it to get divorced? Normally it's the female's decision. Normally 99% of the time it's the female's decision, although sometimes it is the man's decision if he realizes there's no way he can get his wife back. And so they decide that they're going to call it quits. Widowed, there's always that sense of regret, denial, and it's very difficult with widows to get over their wives, especially when they hold on to all the good memories and they can't remember the challenges. And then every woman that comes after his dead wife finds herself competing with the deceased wife, because that man, he tends to hold her in such high esteem. And it's a deliberate protection against himself from getting too involved again. A lot of men, they're so afraid to get involved again. They build up all these barriers. And one of the barriers is to keep talking about their ex. They're constantly living in the past. When they're talking about their ex, they are living in the past. They're not living in the present. And they can't go forward because they're always looking backward. And so you have to ask yourself, is this the kind of relationship you want? Is it healthy? I guess it's proportionate. It all depends how often they talk about the ex. It all depends whether it's in relation to children that they have. If they're talking about the ex outside children and outside any financial obligation, then you have to kind of think, this doesn't seem right. I don't think this man has got over his ex. He's still hung up on her. And maybe you need to give that gentleman space, or you need to get him to open up. How long ago did he break up? If it's less than 6 months, you could be on the rebound. You could be filling a void, making him feel better, filling up those moments of loneliness. And he's using you as a distraction. Now, if it's less than 6 months and he's using you as a distraction, it could mean that if the ex calls up and says, look, I'm really sorry, I want you back, he's gone. So when men are talking about their exes, you have to ask yourself, especially if you care about them, if they're talking about their exes constantly, you have to ask yourself, is this a safe relationship to be in? Is it a healthy relationship to be in? And whether or not it's time for you to take a step back, give that person space to sort out where his heart is, and do that. If it's less than 2 years, there's obviously going to be a lot of regret because they're going to think they've invested a lot of time in that relationship. And especially if it's their fault because they slipped up, whether they had an affair or whatever it is, they carry that guilt and they'll always think, oh, if I hadn't done this, is it possible for me to make it up with that woman? And the thing is with women, when they move on, they tend to move on emotionally and physically. You know, when they decide that it's over, they've normally thought about it for quite a long time. So it might look as though women pick up with somebody else more quickly, or they're less affected by a breakup, but it's usually because they've been thinking about it for quite a while. So when they've decided enough is enough, it's enough. And so if that man has cheated, or he's cheated more than once, or he's messed up in lots of different ways, and she said, look, I've had enough, it's over, it's very difficult to get back where you were, unless, of course, that woman is insecure. If that woman is insecure and needy and is a codependent, there's probably a chance for that relationship to reconcile. But there's just as much of a chance that if it does reconcile, that man is going to cheat again, because he knows that that woman is dependent on him and is, well, codependent. Okay, so so when I was talking about perpetual mourning and grief, all the traits that go with that, you've got the guilt, the regret, the denial, the anger. Men take a very long time to get over it. They feel abandoned, and they're constantly in that state of, is it really over? Can I get her back? Sometimes they don't even want her back, but it's the thought that they might be able to get her back, to punish her for ending the relationship. Sometimes it's ego. A lot of times it's ego. How dare she finish with me? You know, why couldn't she forgive me? If she really loved me, she would take me back. And then that takes us back to those men who don't have mothers who are alive, who can shield them from that pain, who can shield them from that abandonment. When the mother is not alive and the woman has abandoned them, they see it as abandonment because the mother will be loyal to them regardless of what they do. They mess up 100 times, the mother will be there for them. But spouses and partners aren't the same. They don't have that same attachment as a mother. And so men get confused when a woman says, I love you, and yet she doesn't stick with him through thick and thin. They get confused. And even when they go off on their little whatever they do, they go off with this woman or that woman, then they're still expecting on a very, very deep level that that woman loves him and will forgive him and take him back. So, they get confused. And so then they start feeling guilty. And when it's really over, um, they find it really difficult to digest because they see it more or less as abandonment, not as I've done something wrong. It's not a question of I'm taking responsibility for my behavior in this relationship. I know I messed up. And even if they say that, and I'm really sorry, some of them try to put the blame on the woman. Oh, you weren't affectionate. You don't let me make love to you. You're moody. You're this. You're that. And all of that. They find any excuse to justify why they've gone with someone else. So, and then because it's not really justified in their minds, it's just their moment of frivolity and their moment of weakness why they've done it. Then that's when they feel guilt, when they realize that they really lost somebody that they cared about, and just because of a moment of self-gratification, they've lost that person. So they have that constant guilt. And even when they go into subsequent relationships, it's very, very difficult for them to get over that person who they really cared about and messed up with. And so that's why that ex will come into your conversations, but come into your conversation fondly, because that woman didn't really do anything wrong, but it's over. And he'll try to look at her fondly because it makes him feel better. So why did you break up? Was it incompatibility? If it's incompatibility, it's easier to accept. Was it cheating? Feel guilty? You want to put it right? Was it abuse, neglect, abandonment? Is that why the relationship ended? Were was he hitting you or whatever? And if that's the case, he's probably a type of person who will move on to somebody else very quickly. And if he's abusive, he won't have that same emotional attachment. Who broke up with who? The ego, that's the embarrassment, resentment, give me another chance, anger, after all I did for her, revenge, I'll teach her. And sometimes when men feel revengeful, it's I'll show her I can get someone else. I can get someone better than her. That's what comes into their minds. And he'll find somebody who looks better or who is better in some way. So he feels better about himself. It's all about validation, really. And then he'll probably go to see his ex and just to say, oh, look how good I'm doing. They might turn up in a nice car. It might even be their girlfriend's car. But whatever it is, they turn up in their nice car, suited and booted, as if the woman is going to say, oh, look what I missed. Oh, I missed out on a good thing. But mostly, when women have turned off, they've just switched off, and it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you've got. She's switched off. Like I said, unless she's one of these women who are self-deprecating and who are insecure and who don't have high self-esteem. Or maybe it could be a simple act. They love him regardless of what he does. But that can be self-abuse. And men can feel betrayed. I thought she loved me. And that's what I was talking about, that mother-son relationship or dynamic. Women's decision to end it. When a woman decides to end it, like I said before, they've made up their mind that the relationship is unhealthy. They don't have any regrets usually. They prefer to be alone. As far as they're concerned, they're not going back unless, like I said, they have insecurity or adverse childhood experiences that make them vulnerable and vulnerable to abuse and unhealthy relationships. They believe that breakup is the path to success. I'll be better off without him. I can do good all by myself. I know I can do well. And they also think I can get someone better. So when a man decides to end it, and men don't normally end relationships, it's very, very rare that a man will end a relationship. Normally when a man is with a woman, he has chosen to be with that woman and he plans to be with that woman for the rest of his life. But so it's not normally a man who ends a relationship. It's normally the woman who ends it or who leaves or who runs off, whatever it is that she does. So Normally, if a man decides to end it, it's normally because he's non-committal. He wants to sow his oats all over the place. He doesn't really want to settle down. He puts a lot of obstacles in. He's a player and all that kind of stuff. And he's one of those people who will keep bringing up ex-girlfriends to create that distance. So he doesn't have to get too involved with anyone else. There'll always be some excuse. His work, traveling, kids, whatever it is, he'll use an excuse not to get committed. And he'll want to end it just because he feels as though he's getting too involved. His emotions are getting attached. He doesn't like that feeling. It makes him feel vulnerable. It reminds him of when he was in love before and it didn't work. And he now needs to draw away and find somebody who doesn't pull at his heartstrings so much. Men expect to be forgiven. A lot of them play the field. They keep the door open. Some of them, some of these men who have exes, they, because they don't want to feel like a failure, they tend to keep the door open. That's why they keep that relationship going. They want to feel as though, if she does, she might want to come back to me. Deep on a subconscious level, she might want to come back to me. I'm not going to say it's really over. I'm going to let her know that I'm here. I'm concerned about her. I'm worried about her. I need to know that she's okay. And they go into, they keep going back to the ex. That time the ex is just totally frustrated with it and wishes he'd move on. But they still do it. They're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it for the ex. It makes them feel better. The fact that they can still talk to their ex, they can hold on to a part of their ex. And that's why a lot of men, when they have children, they're so glad they've got children because it helps them hold on to their ex. It's a form of control. They can still go to see the ex because the ex has the children or they have some kind of contact, even if they don't actually see their ex. If the woman is a strong person, she might not even let him see her. But if the woman is, happy for him, or maybe she hasn't got any insecurities, she knows herself, she probably will see her ex and not have anything, just reach a stage of apathy. Like I can see my exes and I don't feel anything. I'm totally neutral, but some people are not neutral. And I can talk to an ex and, it's, there's no emotional attachment there. I don't care what he's doing, how he dresses, what he looks like, what job he's doing. I don't care if he turns into a billionaire. Because there's certain people who know that they made the right decision. And a lot of women who break up do know that they've made the right decision. So, a lot of men, they go back to their exes or they keep talking about their exes because they want what they can't have. It's that, that motivation, she doesn't want me. I'm going to let her see that I am a good catch. I want her to want me. And then once she wants me, then I can let her go. Then I've regained that control. Yeah, but a lot of men do see it as failure. So they do want to get someone better because they feel as though if they do, that turns their failure into a success. They've made it. Are you in a relationship with someone who hasn't gotten over their ex, keeps talking about her, comparing you to her, takes you to places that they went, he calls and texts her often, she knows things you don't that happened recently? That's another red flag. If she knows things about your partner that are recent and you happen to know just because he's telling you about what she said about that situation, that's a red flag. I was thinking when I was doing this, when I was writing down these notes of Peter Tosh, brand new, secondhand, and I was thinking about how you can go into a relationship brand new, but you're secondhand because you're secondhand to the relationship that went before. So even though when Peter Tosh was talking about brand new secondhand, he was talking about it from a different perspective. That is what I thought about When I thought brand new secondhand, you can be in a brand new relationship, but you're still secondhand because he still desires his ex. So, and you'll know whether he's still emotionally attached to his ex because he gets angry if he can't get hold of her. He criticizes what she's doing. He thinks that she dresses inappropriately. He criticizes her partner. He uses the children as an excuse to say, oh, she shouldn't be bringing men in the house and all that kind of game. That's when you know the man hasn't let go of his partner. And that is the time when you need to step back. Okay, and he's still got stuff at her place. That's a form of control, and she's probably in that position where she feels she can't get rid of it. So you have to be very careful. Men like to mark their territory and leave stuff all over the place, so that if that person has a partner or if anybody else is coming in, that they know that there is somebody around. And it's got a lot to do with how you actually feel when they talk about the exes. Do you feel disrespected? Do you feel upset? How does it make you feel? Because that is the determinant on whether or not that relationship is healthy. If he's talking about his ex and you're thinking, oh, he's there going on about his ex again, he's bloody insecure, he's trying to wind me up. If you're thinking that way, then maybe it's something you can work with, and your partner needs healing, and you can help him heal through building bonds and getting closer and loving and being more affectionate. But if you think it's an issue with him still being emotionally attached to her, you really need to think twice about where the relationship is going, and you need to talk to him about it. So, time heals, they say. It does help to be affectionate and loving, supportive, and remaining positive. Are there still unresolved issues with his ex? Why he keeps bringing her up? Did the relationship end badly? Was the end clearly stated? Is his behaviour representative of how he actually feels, or is he lying to himself? Is he reluctant to talk to you about his ex? Is he still emotionally attached? That's a red flag. He's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation talking about an ex, but it needs to be done to see where you are, to see your place in that relationship, and to see whether or not it's worth pursuing. If he still feels passionate about his ex, it's best to leave him to resolve his issues. He probably needs more time. Sometimes men just find someone else to prove that they can get another woman. See, I can get another woman. Is he using you to get over his ex? That's a question you need to ask yourself. You're not his consolation prize. So the resolution, you need to be upfront with your expectations. I want to be with you and need someone who wants to be with me. And if he's got a compulsive desire to call his ex, you know that his attachment is with her, and he doesn't feel for you the way you feel for him. So is it just a healthy regard for his ex? Is he just, it's a mother of his children, co-parenting, so he just wants to make sure she's okay because, she's the mother of his child. They're friendly, they're just like siblings, but there's no emotional or romantic attachment. It's practical. They're talking on practical levels about the child's education, schooling, what he's doing and what he's not. And yeah, so if it's a healthy regard for his ex, that's absolutely fine. You can't expect, if you take on someone with children, you can't expect there to be no mention of the ex. It's just about how healthy it is, how often, whether it's obsessive. That's how you have to make that distinction. So you could ask him some questions if you're concerned. What kind of things do you think about when you think about your ex? These are some of the questions you could ask. How do you feel about your ex now? Do you feel responsible for her happiness? Do you feel guilty that it ended? Do you feel angry that she doesn't return your calls? Do you need her to validate you? And then you can also tell him a little bit about how you feel when he brings up the ex. If you feel upset, let him know it upsets you. It doesn't mean that you're insecure. It doesn't mean that you're vulnerable. It just means that he's stepping over boundaries, and it probably means he's talking about his ex a bit too much, which is making it uncomfortable. And you don't need to feel as though you're being too accommodating. Some women, they think, oh yeah, let him talk it out. You're not his therapist, so you don't need to let him offload on you about his ex and all the traumas through his ex. You're not there for that. So really and truly, he should have gotten over that before he's decided to get into a serious relationship with you. It's fine to talk a little bit about it, but if it becomes obsessive and if he starts comparing and if he's showing regret and all of that kind of stuff, you really need to think, hey, I need to give this guy some space. He needs time to reflect and think about what he really wants. So you don't have to worry about feeling needy just because you feel uncomfortable when he talks about his ex. You need to set boundaries. Trust your instincts. Is he just testing you to see if you're a jealous type of person, or does he have a genuine attachment to his ex? Talk to him about breakups. I mean, breakups are tough. Did they both play a part, or was it one-sided? Like, how do you feel about her now? You can say it doesn't feel as though you're over it. It seems as though there's some unfinished business. Do you want to talk to me about it? Do you want to talk to her about it? Has it been left open-ended? Has he left clothes behind, like I said before? Is it a question that he just wants what he can't have? Sometimes people are exes for a reason. Why are you an ex? You know, you're both exes, but why are you both exes? What played a part in that? Sometimes it's simply because one person, it fears commitment, and when it gets too close, they just want to pull away. Sometimes there's some real valid reasons why you're exes. So if your partner is over reliant on his ex for advice, for companionship, to talk to her, then he's not over her, and you need to let him get on his bike. How long ago did the relationship end? That has something to do with how he might relate to you now. Normally, if it's within 6 months, you could be on the rebound, and just there to fill a void. And he needs attention to replace loneliness. He's probably trying to convince himself by taking you on that it's over with the other person when it's not. Is he vague about talking about how the relationship ended? Signs of mute feelings means it's still painful. Could mean he's trying to pretend that she doesn't matter to him if he avoids talking about her. So give him the space to find out what he wants. He can then think about whether or not you are more important, or whether he should try and pursue it with his ex. I mean, it's very difficult to try and pursue it with an ex when the ex has clearly moved on. That kind of leaves that man in limbo, doesn't it? It's almost like he can't get closure because he wants that person, but she's moved on. So, and you're stuck in the middle. So that is where it could be just showing love and attention to your ex if you really care about, not your ex, your love and attention to your new partner if you really care about that person and you think he's worth investing in. Or it could mean that, you know, he needs to be left alone until he's got over it. And in one, you also have to kind of think, you can't get paranoid. You have to kind of think, what context is he talking about his ex in? Is he talking about her in the context of his children? Or, you know, something that she needs to do with the children or something like that? If that's the case, well, you know, you're going to need to expect that. Outside the children, e.g. asking her for advice on things, he should be asking you for advice. He shouldn't be asking her for advice. That should be in the past. It shouldn't be that kind of relationship. Is it a control issue? Like I said before, using children to stay in contact with an ex, manipulation, so she doesn't forget him, and she might regret that he's moved on. Men tend to keep exes alive by bringing them up, also to keep you in your place. If you're insecure, talks to her, talks about her when she goes out, what she wears, what she does for a living. It's time to move on, girls. Should you move on? Well, like I said, it's proportionality. How often does he talk about her? He knows what he wants. He needs to know what he wants. Does he keep sentimental gifts that she bought? He needs closure. Are you an escape? Will he run back to her if she wants him? He needs to make a decision. Is the relationship worth investing in? Weigh up the pros and cons. Step back or step off. So you have to ask yourself these questions, in order to know whether it's time to move on. Conclusion: you can't look behind and ahead at the same time. Don't ignore red flags. If he's not over his ex, he will run to her when she calls or as soon as there's a problem, as long as she wants him. Don't deny your instincts, but make sure they don't stem from paranoia. Sometimes instincts are they come from fear and paranoia as opposed to genuine concern and protection. So, and verify cumulative issues. Sometimes just talking about the ex in isolation is not a bad thing. But when it's cumulative, like he talks about the ex as well as he compares her to you, he's involved in her life. He talks about her outside the children that they have. There's some obvious unfinished business. One party did not forgive, or the other person seeks to be forgiven. So you have to look at it in context. The aim is to seek apathy, neutral and no emotion when both parties talk about their exes. If there's emotion in their conversations about their ex, then that is a red flag. Because emotion means lack of closure. Do you end it, take a break, take a step back, or do you build bonds? The choice is yours. Bye-bye.